This is the story of Christianity. Today, it is the biggest religion in the world. More than 2 billion people are Christians. But this large faith started very small a long time ago with just a few people. The story begins with a very important person, Jesus Christ. He lived about 2,000 years ago. He was born in a place called Judea. Judea was a small area, but it was part of the very large and powerful Roman Empire. The Roman Empire controlled many lands around the Mediterranean Sea. Jesus lived and taught people in Judea. He talked about God, love, and how people should live. He gathered a small group of followers. These first followers listened to him and believed his message was special. After Jesus died, his followers felt lost at first. But then they strongly believed something amazing happened. They believed Jesus came back to life after 3 days. This belief became central to their faith. It gave them great hope and the courage to share their story. From this small group in Judea, the new faith started to grow. Jesus' followers traveled to nearby towns and cities. They shared the story of Jesus, his life, his teachings, his death, and his return to life. They called this story the Good News or the Gospel. At first, most of the people who joined were Jewish, like Jesus and his first followers. But soon, people who were not Jewish also heard the message and started to believe. These people were called Gentiles. Welcoming Gentiles helped the faith spread much faster and wider. Over many hundreds of years, Christianity spread across the huge Roman Empire. Sometimes Christians faced danger, but the faith kept growing. Later, it spread to other parts of Europe. Then, much later, travelers and missionaries took Christianity to Africa, Asia, and the Americas. Today, Christians live in almost every country on earth. Billions of people find meaning, hope, and guidance in the life and teachings of Jesus Christ. There are now many different groups or types of Christians, but they all share a connection to Jesus. Why did this faith grow from a small group into the world's largest religion? How did it change and adapt over 2,000 years of history? This story explores the long and amazing journey of Christianity. We will look at the important people, the key ideas, and the big events that shaped this global faith. We will see how it started with Jesus and his followers, and follow its path through history, learning about its challenges and successes. It is a fascinating story about faith, people, history, and culture. 2. Jesus and his first followers. Jesus was a man from Nazareth who lived about 2,000 years ago. He lived in a place called Judea, which was part of the large Roman Empire. His life and what he taught became the start of Christianity. Many people believe Jesus is the Son of God. Jesus traveled around Judea teaching people about God. He talked about love, kindness, and how people should live. Many stories say he performed miracles, like healing sick people. His life and teachings are written down in the first 4 books of the New Testament part of the Bible. These books are called the Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. These stories tell about his work, his baptism, and his ideas. The Old Testament part of the Bible was important background for Jesus and his followers. Jesus chose 12 main followers called apostles. Some famous apostles were Peter and John. These men spent time with Jesus, learned from him, and saw the things he did. They were the first people to follow his teachings closely. Early followers of Jesus sometimes called themselves people of the way. Later, in a city called Antioch, people started calling them Christians, which means followers of Christ. Jesus' life ended when he was killed. He died by crucifixion, a common way Romans punished people then. His followers buried him in a tomb, but the story did not end there. 3 days after his death, his followers believed something amazing happened. They believed Jesus came back to life. This event is called the resurrection. For Christians, the resurrection is very important. It is the cornerstone of their faith. They believe it showed Jesus had power over death. The Gospels say Jesus appeared to his apostles and many other followers after he rose from the dead. Then he went up to heaven. After Jesus went to heaven, his followers started the first Christian community in the city of Jerusalem. James, Peter, and John were important leaders there. This was the beginning of the Christian church. These first Christians started to share the story of Jesus' life, death, and resurrection with others. They called this message the gospel, which means good news. They wanted everyone to hear about Jesus. A very important person in spreading this message was Paul the Apostle. Paul first did not believe in Jesus and caused problems for Christians, but later he had an experience that changed him. He then traveled to many places, telling people about Jesus. He especially shared the message with people who were not Jewish, called Gentiles. This helped Christianity grow from a small group into a religion for people everywhere. 3. The church grows bigger. After Jesus died, his followers, the early Christians, faced difficult times. Being a Christian was often dangerous. Some Jewish leaders did not like the new group. The Roman Empire, which ruled the land, also caused problems. Sometimes Roman leaders punished Christians. There were times when Christians were hurt or killed for their beliefs. For example, Saint Stephen and James, one of Jesus' first followers, were killed early on. Later, Roman emperors like Decius and Diocletian ordered large attacks on Christians across the empire. During these times, many Christians had to hide their faith or meet in secret. However, these times of danger were mixed with times of peace when they were left alone. At first, most Christians were Jewish, but soon the message about Jesus started to spread to people who were not Jewish. These people were called Gentiles. This caused some discussion among the early Christians about whether Gentiles needed to follow all Jewish laws. A very important person in spreading the faith was Paul the Apostle. Paul first worked against Christians. But after a big change in his life, he became a strong believer in Jesus. Paul traveled thousands of miles around the Mediterranean area. He started many new churches in places like Greece and Turkey. He taught that Gentiles could become Christians through faith in Jesus and baptism, without following all Jewish rules. Paul wrote many letters to these new churches to teach them and help them with problems. These letters became a big part of the New Testament in the Bible. Paul's work helped Christianity grow from a small Jewish group into a religion for all people. The Roman Empire's view of Christians changed over time. After years of problems and danger, a big change happened in the early 4th century. Emperor Constantine became the leader of the Roman Empire. He stopped the official punishment of Christians. In the year 313, he made the Edict of Milan. This order said that Christians were free to practice their religion without fear. Constantine himself supported Christianity and was baptized before he died. He wanted the church to be strong and united. In the year 325, Constantine called a big meeting of church leaders in a town called Nicaea. This was the first council of Nicaea. The leaders talked about their beliefs, especially about who Jesus was. They wrote the Nicene Creed, a statement of the main Christian beliefs that many churches still use today. Later, in the year 380, another emperor made Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire. The church grew much bigger and richer after this. 4. A long time ago, the Middle Ages. After the great Roman Empire ended in the West, around the year 500, life in Europe changed. The Christian church became very important during this long time, called the Middle Ages. The leader of the church in Rome, the Pope, became a more powerful figure. During this time, many men and women chose to live a special religious life. Men were called monks, and women were called nuns. They lived together in places called monasteries. A man named Benedict wrote rules for how monks should live and work together. Monasteries were quiet places for prayer and work. Monks and nuns also copied books by hand, so they kept learning and knowledge alive when many people could not read or write. These monasteries helped Christianity grow. Some famous centers of learning were in Ireland and Scotland. Christianity continued to spread across Europe. Missionaries traveled to new areas and taught people about Jesus. Many groups like the Germanic, Celtic, and Slavic peoples became Christians during the Middle Ages. Slowly, most of Europe became Christian. But the church itself changed. Over hundreds of years, Christians in the West and the East grew apart. They started to have different ideas about leadership and some practices. In the year 1054, the church officially split into two big parts. In Western Europe, it was the Catholic Church, led by the Pope in Rome. In Eastern Europe and nearby areas, it became the Eastern Orthodox Church, with its main center in Constantinople. This big split is called the Great Schism. They disagreed strongly about the Pope's power. Later in the Middle Ages, starting around the year 1095, European Christians fought wars called the Crusades. Pope Urban II called for the First Crusade. The main goal was to take control of the Holy Land, the area where Jesus lived, from Muslim rulers who controlled it then. Thousands of people traveled far to fight. There were many crusades over about 200 years. They caused much fighting and death, and they did not succeed in keeping control of the Holy Land for a long time. One crusade even attacked the Christian city of Constantinople. This was also a time when people built very large and beautiful churches called cathedrals. These huge buildings showed the power and importance of the church. Many were built in a new style called Gothic. Gothic cathedrals were very tall, with high ceilings, pointed arches, and large stained glass windows that let in light. They took many years, sometimes hundreds of years, to build. These amazing buildings were centers for worship and community life. The Middle Ages was a period of great change and growth for Christianity in Europe. 5. Big changes and new churches. Around the year 1500, some people felt there were problems in the Catholic Church in Western Europe. The church was led by the Pope in Rome. One big issue was the selling of papers called indulgences. Church leaders said these papers could shorten the time people spent in purgatory after they died. Some people thought this was wrong. They believed God's forgiveness could not be bought with money. A German monk and teacher named Martin Luther strongly disagreed with selling indulgences. In 1517, he wrote a list of 95 points explaining why he thought it was wrong. He put this list on a church door for people to read. Luther taught that people are saved only by their faith in God, not by buying papers or doing good works. This idea is called faith alone. He also said the Bible was the only true source of religious teaching, more important than the Pope or church traditions. This is called Bible alone. Many people agreed with Luther. His ideas spread quickly across Europe, helped by new printing machines that made many copies of his writings. Luther's actions started a time of big changes called the Reformation. This led to a split in the Western Church. People who followed Luther's ideas became known as Lutherans. Soon, other leaders also wanted changes. John Calvin was another important reformer whose ideas led to Reformed and Presbyterian churches. In England, the Reformation happened differently. King Henry VIII wanted to end his marriage, but the Pope said no. So in 1534, the king declared himself the head of the church in England. This created the Church of England, also called the Anglican Church. Other groups like the Anabaptists also appeared. They believed that only adults who chose to follow Christ should be baptized. All these new groups that separated from the Catholic Church became known as Protestants. The Catholic Church reacted to these changes. It began its own period of reform called the Counter-Reformation. Important church leaders met together at the Council of Trent. They discussed Catholic beliefs and made the rules clearer. They stopped the selling of indulgences. However, they confirmed many traditional Catholic teachings that Protestants disagreed with. The Catholic Church worked to become stronger and stop more people from leaving. Sadly, these big religious changes also caused conflict. For many years, Catholics and Protestants fought against each other in violent wars across Europe. Countries often chose one side, leading to long conflicts like the 30 Years' War. This was a very difficult time, and many people suffered because of the deep disagreements about religion. 6. Christianity goes everywhere. After new churches started in Europe, Christianity began to travel much further across the oceans. From the 15th century, European countries sent ships to explore the world. This was the age of discovery. Explorers sailed to places like North and South America, parts of Africa, and countries in Asia. They were looking for new lands and trade. They also took their religion, Christianity, with them. They introduced it to the people they met in these new lands. Soon after the explorers, special people called missionaries started to travel. Missionaries are people whose job is to share their religious beliefs. Christian missionaries, Catholic and Protestant, went to many parts of the world. They wanted people in the Americas, Africa, and Asia to learn about Jesus and become Christians. To do this, they built churches and often started schools and hospitals. They learned new languages to talk to local people and translate the Bible. Their work helped Christianity spread far beyond Europe. When Christianity arrived in new countries, it met different cultures and ways of life. People already had their own beliefs. Sometimes the Christian religion mixed with these local ways. People understood Christian ideas using their own culture. This meant that the way people practiced Christianity could look a bit different in Africa, Asia, or the Americas. It was not always exactly the same as in Europe. It changed in new places. Back in Europe, things were also changing, especially from the 17th century. New ideas became important. Science grew quickly and offered new ways to understand the world. This time was called the Age of Enlightenment. People started to ask more questions and use reason and science, sometimes instead of religion. Also, many people and governments thought religion should be separate from public life. This idea is called secularism. Some governments even opposed the church's power. Because of these new ideas, Christian belief became less strong for some people in Europe. Church attendance went down in many European areas. However, this was not the story everywhere. While Christianity faced challenges in Europe and North America, it started to grow very fast in other parts of the world. In modern times, especially in the 20th century, huge numbers of people in Africa and Asia became Christians. Christianity is growing very quickly on these continents today and also in Latin America. Many new churches are opening and gaining followers in these regions, often called the Global South. So the main centers of Christianity are changing. It is growing a lot outside Europe. Christianity truly went everywhere, changing and facing new situations as it spread across the globe. 7. Believing and living as a Christian. Christians believe in one God. This God is three persons, the Father, the Son, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit. This idea is called the Trinity. It means God is one but also three. A central belief for Christians is that Jesus is the Son of God. They believe God sent Jesus to the world to save people. Christians follow Jesus' teachings. They believe Jesus died on a cross but came back to life 3 days later. This event is called the resurrection. They believe he went up to heaven and will come back one day. Christians have a holy book, the Bible. It guides their life and faith. The Bible has 2 parts. The Old Testament has writings from before Jesus was born. The New Testament tells about the life and teachings of Jesus and his first followers, called apostles. It includes 4 books called Gospels, which tell Jesus' story. Christians believe the Bible is God's Word, written by people guided by God. Christians worship God together, often in groups. Many meet in a special building called a church. Sunday is the usual day for worship because Christians believe Jesus came back to life on a Sunday. Church services often include reading parts of the Bible. A leader, like a priest or pastor, usually gives a talk called a sermon. This talk explains the Bible readings. People also sing songs or hymns and pray together. Prayer is how Christians talk to God, asking for help, saying thank you, or just being close to God. Christians have important ceremonies. Baptism is one. It uses water to show that a person is joining the Christian faith and washing away sins. It is a new beginning with God. Some Christians baptize babies, while others baptize adults who decide to follow Jesus. Another key practice is the Eucharist, also called Holy Communion or the Lord's Supper. During this, Christians share bread and wine. They do this to remember Jesus' sacrifice when he died, just as he asked his followers to do at his last meal. For Christians, faith is not just about belief. It is also about how they live every day. They try to follow the teachings of Jesus found in the New Testament. Jesus taught about loving God and loving other people. This means being kind, forgiving others, helping the poor and sick, and living honestly. Regular prayer is also important for many Christians. It helps them feel close to God and ask for guidance in their lives. Christianity is a very large religion with followers all over the world. Over time, different groups have formed. Today, the three main branches are the Catholic Church, the Eastern Orthodox Church, and Protestantism. Protestants include many different smaller groups like Lutherans, Baptists, and Methodists. While these groups all follow Jesus, they have some differences in their beliefs, leadership, and ways of worshiping. 8. Christianity now and the future. Today, Christianity is the biggest religion in the world. More than 2 billion people are Christians. This is about 1 person out of every 3 people on earth. Christians live in almost every country. The main groups are Catholics, Protestants, and Orthodox Christians. Catholics make up about half of all Christians. Protestants are the next largest group. Christians live everywhere, but most live in the Americas, Europe, and Africa south of the Sahara Desert. Most people in Europe and the Americas say they are Christian, but not all go to church often. Things are changing in Christianity. In some parts of Europe and North America, fewer people are going to church than in the past. But in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, the number of Christians is growing very fast. Many people in these areas are choosing to become Christians. This means that Christianity is moving south. More Christians now live in the global south than in the West. This is a big change from 100 years ago. In some places, Christians face difficult times and are treated badly, especially where they are a small group. There are many different kinds of Christian churches. Sometimes these groups have different ideas about beliefs and worship. In the past, disagreements meant that churches often did not work together. But today, many Christians want to understand each other better and cooperate. This effort is called ecumenism. Christian groups meet to talk and find ways to work together. They might work together to help poor people or to speak for peace. Some churches have even joined together to form united churches. They try to focus on the beliefs they share as followers of Jesus. Christianity has had a big influence on culture around the world for many centuries. This includes art, music, laws, and education. Many universities started as Christian schools long ago. Famous paintings and music were often made for churches or told Bible stories. Ideas about helping the poor and caring for the sick have strong roots in Christian teaching. In many countries, Christian holidays like Christmas and Easter are important dates for everyone. Looking back, the story of Christianity is very long, more than 2,000 years. It started with Jesus and a small group of followers in Judea. It spread across the Roman Empire, through Europe, and then to the whole world. It faced difficult times and times of great influence. Today, it continues to change. Looking forward, these changes, especially the growth in the global South, will continue to shape the religion. What event or person in the story of Christianity surprised you the most?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.